want to bring in Israeli Major Doron Spielman. He's the spokesperson for the Israel Defense Forces. Major, thank you so much for joining us. Just update us right now. What is the status of the hostage release effort as we're speaking right now? What can you tell us?
Thank you for having me, Wolf. Well, as Jeremy said, the hostages have crossed into Egypt. The area from Gaza, Egypt, and Israel is a very short area, very small area. They're on their way to the Kerem Shalom crossing. When they make it into Israel and we bring our people home, which every eye in Israel is glued to the television right now, as I know so many eyes around the world are, as soon as our people come home, they're going to be checked. They'll have an initial medical check, and then they will be brought to hospitals where most of them will be meeting, as you mentioned, with their families, the remnants of their families. There'll be hugs, there'll be kisses and tears, and then many of them are going to understand what they do not know, which is what happened on October 7th. These people have been kept in a bubble. They do not know how vast this massacre was and how many of their family members are either still missing or have been killed. And that is where we are now. And I have to say, this evening, this was not easy to reach, Wolf. All of us have been on pins and needles, and those families have been waiting up to 9 hours for their children and their family members to enter into Israel.
So you're confident, Major, that these hostages, and we're told, what, 8 children, 5 women, and 7 foreign nationals are in this second group of hostages held by Hamas in Gaza, are now coming to Israel. Is that what I understand?
We have reports on that, and that is the operating assumption from the IDF side. As soon as they cross into Israel and they're home, and I stress when they are home, and we can see them and physically look at them, we're going to be sure. That is the process. We want to take nothing for granted. This was supposed to happen many hours ago. These families have been tortured. They've been waiting in hospital wards. They thought tonight maybe they weren't going to get their family members back. And this was just another element. We're not surprised because this is the way Hamas operates. It's this psychological terror. It's any opportunity to really take advantage of a weakness. They know Israel. They know the world is looking at this. And what kind of people would cause a delay when people are so full of angst for their family? But they did. Thankfully, now, though, this is moving forward, and within a minute or two, hopefully, we're going to have these people home. It's definitely a day of celebration.
And
I just
want to be precise, because I said 7 foreign nationals. That's the number we had heard earlier. Is it 7 foreign nationals who are in this group, or 4 foreign nationals?
We've been told 7, Wolf. That is the reports that I have. Again, we'll be able to confirm it more when they cross through that Kerem Shalom crossing, and we're able to get our eyes on them. People have been working day and night on this. I have to say, Egypt and Qatar have been working day and night on this to try to make sure Hamas upholds their deal. There's been a lot of on and off. Because of that, we are hopefully cautious, and we'll be able to evaluate it once they are firmly in the state of Israel.
And we know that in the first group of hostages released, there were Filipinos and there were people from Thailand, workers who had come to Israel who were grabbed and captured by Hamas and taken with the hostages to Gaza. Do we know where the nationalities of the current foreign nationals who are being brought to Israel?
It's a similar background. Israel has a lot of Thai workers that come here specifically to make a living, and they're not involved in anything political. They're hardworking. They send the money back home to their families, and then they leave after a few years. And I have to say, many of them were brutally murdered. They were in those fields. They were the first ones to come in contact with the terrorists when they came over the border. These people were harvesting, and they were literally just mowed down, cut down. There was a bloodbath. Many of them fled the country, and we're so happy that they are going to be able to hopefully reunite with their families. And it just shows, Wolf, that this is not an Israeli problem alone. Hamas doesn't just look for Israelis and Jews, even though that's in their charter. They're willing to kill anyone or anything that's in their way. And if we don't stop them here in Israel, I think this is, a global issue. That's why so many eyes are looking at the screen and are interested.
We're showing our viewers major live pictures coming in from the Egyptian side of the Rafah border crossing, these buses that are there. And we just saw some of the hostages going from one vehicle to another vehicle. I think they're getting ready to get into these bigger buses and head toward the Kerem Shalom border crossing and eventually get into Israel. It's only about 2 miles or so away, as you say. So it shouldn't take very long for this next group of hostages to leave the Rafah border crossing where they are right now. They're on the Egyptian side. They're no longer on the Gaza side, and drive to the Kerem Shalom border crossing, which will allow them to come directly back into Israel, which will be a very, very momentous moment for the hostages, their families, their loved ones, and for all of us who have been watching this so closely. And I just wonder, Major, you've watched this as closely as anyone, what goes through your heart and your mind as you watch these images unfold?
I can tell you that it's been full of tears for myself, my family. I have little children who have an association with these children. Even my 7-year-old is aware that there are children his age, and even he's been looking at the screens. As much as we try to keep them away, they want to know, when are these children coming home? It's very personal. I feel like my family is there. We all know people who are there, and I have to say, we are aware that they are coming home, but the journey, Wolf, for these people, for many of them, this is just another stage on a journey that's going to take years. The health professionals recently said that the psychological process, it's going to take 6 months just to understand what type of psychological therapy many of these people, especially the children, are going to need. Just the evaluation will take 6 months. This is going to be years of unfolding emotions and an opportunity for the people of Israel to welcome them home. And as Clarissa said, hopefully enable them to reintegrate back into society and live a positive life here in Israel. And all of our hearts are with them.
Do we know, Major, that the children who are in this group of hostages who are now about to be driven to Israel together with the other hostages who are being released, do we know if, as far as the children are concerned, if the children's parents are still hostages in Gaza, or do we know if they're even alive right now, or were they killed on October 7th?
The situation in Gaza is very, very tricky. If people are alive and dead in Gaza is anyone's guess, even as President Biden said yesterday regarding that little girl, Abigail, and the fate of her family. There's a lack of assurances. We also saw people who were alive and then they were killed. In this specific case, I'll be honest, I want to be very careful what I say because the names have not yet been released to the general public. And let's wait and see. If you can ask me that question a little bit later today, I'm happy to go into more detail.
And do we think, this is Major Doron Spielman, spokesperson for the Israel Defense Forces, do we think that the next phase, tomorrow's phase, will go ahead as scheduled, or is it going to be a huge delay and major problems and nervousness as we saw today?
So our operating assumption is that this is going to go through. We are committed to this framework, Wolf. We've held back our fire. We have stopped the process. We had tightened the noose around Hamas terrorists' neck, and we released some of that pressure by not pushing them to the wall in order to make this deal go through, because we so want our people to come home. It's a great commitment on our behalf, and the only reason we're doing it is for the return of those hostages. We're aware, however, that if there is a chance for Hamas to manipulate and inflict emotional pain on people, they've always been willing to take it in the past, and therefore these ups and downs, we're not surprised by them, as painful as they are. I'm just hoping, and we're hoping, that Hamas keeps their word on this agreement. Qatar and Egypt are committed to trying to get Hamas to hold up their word, and we certainly are hoping that tomorrow and the next day we'll move forward as planned.
And very quickly, Major, before I let you go, I just wanted you to clarify. Earlier tonight, I spoke with the deputy mayor of Jerusalem, who told us that the Israel Defense Forces, the Defense Ministry, had given Hamas a midnight tonight deadline to release the hostages, or Israel was going to resume its strikes against Hamas targets in Gaza. It's now, a quarter to midnight or so here local time. Give us some context. Was there this warning to Hamas? They had until midnight to release these hostages?
So I also saw this in the media. I can tell you on the ground, I myself did not get that message. Neither did many of my associates. So from where I'm told, maybe it was issued by the political establishment. From where we're sitting, it wasn't issued. I am happy that they are coming home, and God willing, they should be home by midnight. And look, from our perspective, as we've said, we're committed to this. We want this to go through. We want them to come home as soon as possible, even after these people come home, Wolf. And it's a blessing to have 26 of our own citizens home. There are 200 people, as you and I are speaking, that don't have access to CNN, that are deep underneath the ground in wet and freezing conditions in the belly of the earth. And that's where they're suffering. So for us, this ordeal is so mixed, right? I mean, it's a shining light through the clouds, but the clouds are still there. We have a lot of questions. What's going to happen with the men? What's going to happen with these other babies? Even a 9-month-old baby. And so this really is a time for mixed emotions, but we're trying to be positive, and we're going to do everything within this framework, and if we need to, on a military side, to bring everybody home.
And so far, Hamas has only been releasing women, especially older women, as well as children. The men are not being released at all. Major Doron Spielman, thank you so much for spending a few moments with us. We really appreciate it.